The emergency alarms blared through the United Earth Defense Headquarters as Commander Lisa Martinez rushed down the corridor. Her boots echoed against the metal floor, while screens on the walls showed real-time footage of the attacks on the outer colonies. The year was 2157, and humanity faced its greatest challenge yet. She burst into the command center, where dozens of officers worked at their stations. The main display showed the Nexian warships tearing through Earth's defensive line near the Mars colony. Their purple-tinted energy shields absorbed every missile and energy blast, like they were nothing more than gentle raindrops. "Status report," Lisa demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. "We've lost contact with the Europa station," Officer Steve Baker reported, his face pale under the red emergency lights. "The colony on Ganymede is under heavy fire. Our ships, they can't even dent the Nexian shields." Lisa watched as another human destroyer exploded on the screen. The crew of 300 people, gone in an instant. She clenched her fists, feeling helpless as more reports of losses came in. The Nexians had appeared 6 months ago, their massive ships emerging from what seemed like nowhere. They didn't ask for surrender or make demands. They simply started destroying everything in their path. The door slid open behind her, and General Dan Miller walked in. The old soldier's face looked like it had aged 10 years in the past week. "Commander Martinez, we need to talk. Now." They moved to a quiet corner of the command center. The general pulled up a secure tablet and showed her a classified file labeled Project Thunderstrike. "We've been developing something in secret," he explained, his voice low. "After the first Nexian attack, we recovered pieces of their technology. Our scientists have been working day and night to understand it." Lisa's eyes widened as she read through the specifications. "A star destroyer. We're building our own." The general nodded. "The biggest ship humanity has ever made. But we need someone to oversee the defense forces while it's being completed. Someone who can buy us time." A massive explosion on the main screen drew their attention. The Ganymede colony's main dome had been breached. Emergency protocols were starting, but everyone knew the horrible truth. Thousands of people would die before help could arrive. "How long?" Lisa asked, her jaw set with determination. 6 months, if we're lucky," the general replied. "The Luna shipyards are working at full capacity. We've got our best people on it." Lisa looked at the screen again, watching as more human ships moved to defend the remaining colonies. Brave men and women fighting a losing battle against an enemy they couldn't hurt. But now, for the first time, she felt a spark of hope. "I'll hold them back," she promised. "Whatever it takes, we'll give the shipyards the time they need." The general placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'm promoting you to fleet commander. All defensive operations will be under your control. We need you to coordinate with all remaining colonies and military installations." Lisa straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. She knew that the next 6 months would be the hardest of her life. Many good people would die, and she would have to make impossible decisions. But humanity needed this chance, this one shot at fighting back. "Send word to all commands," she ordered, turning to face the command center. "We're initiating Protocol Iron Wall. All ships are to focus on defensive actions only. No more suicide runs against their capital ships. We preserve our forces, we protect our people, and we wait for our chance." As officers rushed to relay her orders, Lisa looked up at the massive screen. Somewhere out there, the Nexians thought they had already won. They believed humans were just another weak species to be conquered. Soon, they would learn how wrong they were. In the depths of the Luna shipyards, construction crews were already working around the clock. Humanity's answer to the Nexian threat was taking shape in the darkness. The UES retribution was coming, and with it, humanity's chance to strike back. Chief Engineer Paul Carter wiped the sweat from his forehead as he studied the holographic blueprints floating in front of him. The massive skeleton of the UES retribution stretched out through the Luna shipyard's main construction bay, its frame already larger than any ship humanity had ever built. "Sir, "We have a problem with the shield generators in Section 7, said Amy Porter, his assistant engineer. She pointed to a red flashing indicator on her tablet. "The power coupling isn't holding steady." Paul grabbed his tool belt and headed toward the maintenance tunnel. "Show me," he said, ducking under a thick bundle of power cables. The Luna shipyard never slept now, with crews working in constant shifts. They couldn't afford to waste even a minute. Inside the narrow tunnel, Paul could see the problem immediately. The experimental shield generator was drawing more power than expected, causing the coupling to overheat. As he worked to stabilize it, he thought about how far they'd come in the past 3 months. The recovered Nexian technology had been a goldmine of information. Their shield systems were incredibly advanced, but human engineers had found ways to improve them. Paul's team had discovered that combining Earth's quantum field technology with the alien systems created something entirely new, a hybrid shield that could adapt to different types of attacks. "How's the lance weapon coming along?" Paul asked Amy as they finished the repairs. "Main testing starts tomorrow. The power requirements are massive, but John thinks he's solved the cooling problems." A loud alarm suddenly blared through the shipyard. Paul's heart raced until he recognized the pattern. Not an attack warning, but an internal security alert. He rushed to the nearest communication panel and called the security office. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Sabotage attempt in the engine room," came the reply. Security teams caught them in time. "No damage done." Paul cursed under his breath. It wasn't the first attempt to slow down or stop the construction. Some people were scared of building something so powerful, while others thought it was a waste of resources. They didn't understand that without the retribution, humanity had no chance of survival. He climbed up to the observation deck, needing to see the whole ship. The Retribution's hull plates were being attached piece by piece, its massive form taking shape under the stars. The ship would be over 2 kilometers long when finished, with enough firepower to take on an entire Nexian battle fleet. His tablet beeped with an urgent message from Fleet Command. Another colony had fallen to the Nexians. The death toll was still being calculated. Paul closed his eyes for a moment, letting the grief and anger fuel his determination. "Everyone, gather round," he called over the shipyard's communication system. Workers stopped what they were doing as his voice echoed through the vast space. "I know we're all tired. I know we're pushing ourselves to the limit. But I just got word about Pine Station Colony. Those people were counting on us to finish this ship in time." He paused, looking at the faces of his crew on the various video feeds. "We're not just building a ship here. We're building humanity's best hope for survival. Every minute we can shave off our schedule might save thousands of lives. I need everyone to dig deep. We can do this." The response was immediate. Workers returned to their tasks with renewed energy. The sound of construction intensified as people pushed themselves even harder. Paul turned back to the shield generator problem, determined to solve it before his next break. High above, through the shipyard's transparent dome, Earth hung like a blue jewel in the black sky. Paul thought about his family down there, about all the families counting on this ship to protect them. The Retribution wasn't just going to be humanity's first star destroyer. It was going to be their guardian, their avenger, and their statement to the galaxy that humans weren't going down without a fight. As he worked through the night, the massive ship continued to grow around him, its weapons and systems coming online one by one. Soon, very soon, it would be ready. And when that day came, the Nexians would learn what humanity was truly capable of. Captain Catherine Wells stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching as her crew rushed to their stations. The massive ship hadn't even finished its final testing phase when the alert came in. Nexian ships had breached the outer defense line of the Sol system. "Status report," she called out, her voice clear and steady despite the tension in the air. "All systems running at 90% capacity, Captain," replied Lieutenant Alice Brown from the engineering station. "The lance weapon is charged and ready, but we haven't had time to run a full test fire." Catherine nodded. "They would have to test it in real combat." The Retribution's bridge was unlike anything ever built before, with holographic displays showing every aspect of the massive ship. 3,000 crew members worked throughout its 2-kilometer length, many of them still learning their way around. Nexian fleet detected near Saturn's orbit, announced the sensor officer, Peter Smith. 5 capital ships and 12 support vessels. They're moving fast. Time to intercept. 2 hours at current speed, Captain. Catherine touched the command console, bringing up a tactical display. The Retribution was humanity's biggest ship, but it was about to face its first real battle against an enemy that had been conquering worlds for centuries. All hands, this is the captain speaking. Her voice carried throughout the entire ship. We're moving to engage the enemy. This is what we've trained for. This is why this ship was built. Today, we show the Nexians that humanity will not fall easily. The crew responded with determined efficiency. The massive engines hummed to life, pushing the Star Destroyer forward. Catherine watched as weapons crews ran final checks, shield generators powered up, and fighter squadrons prepared for launch. Message from Fleet Command, called out Communications Officer Greg Wilson. Commander Martinez sends her regards and says, "Make them regret ever coming to our system." A small smile crossed Catherine's face. The past 6 months had been brutal on Earth's defenders. Now it was time to hit back. Tactical, prepare battle plan Alpha 3, she ordered. I want our fighter squadrons ready to launch the moment we exit light speed. Engineering, divert all spare power to the forward shields. The bridge crew worked smoothly together as the Retribution moved through space. They had trained for months in simulators, but this would be different. This would be real. Captain, Peter called out suddenly. I'm detecting civilian ships near the Nexian fleet. Mining vessels from Saturn's rings. They couldn't evacuate in time. Catherine's jaw tightened. The Nexians never showed mercy to civilian ships. How many? 3 ships, total of 52 people aboard. Plot an intercept course, she ordered. We're not letting those people die. Tactical, prepare to launch our first strike the moment we're in range. We need to draw their attention away from those civilian ships. The next hour was tense as the Retribution closed the distance. Catherine studied the enemy formation through the tactical displays. The Nexian ships were arranged in their standard attack pattern. They weren't expecting any real resistance. All hands, battle stations, she announced. Engineering, ready the lance weapon. Target the lead Nexian ship. Let's show them what humanity's first Star Destroyer can do. The massive ship moved into position, its weapons charged and ready. Through the main viewport, Catherine could see the distant flashes of weapons fire, where the Nexians were attacking the civilian ships. We're in range in 30 seconds, Tactical reported. Catherine stood from her command chair, her eyes fixed on the approaching enemy. Launch fighters. Charge all weapons. Today we make history. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will not surrender, will not give up, and will not go quietly. The Retribution's systems hummed with power as it prepared for its first battle. In the next few minutes, everything would change. Either humanity would gain its first real victory against the Nexians, or their last best hope would fall. Catherine knew which outcome she was betting on. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper's fingers flew over the weapons control panel as the first Nexian shots hit the Retribution's shields. The massive Star Destroyer shook slightly, but the new hybrid shield system held strong. Shields at 95%, he reported. Their weapons aren't as effective against our new defenses. Captain Wells nodded from her command chair. Launch the rescue shuttles. Get those civilian ships out of there. Lieutenant Cooper, prepare to fire the Lance. Let's give them something to think about. The Lance weapon system hummed to life under Ryan's control. He had helped design it, spent countless hours testing it in simulations, but this would be its first real use. The weapon gathered power from the ship's main reactor, building up to levels that made the deck plates vibrate. Nexian ships are changing formation, announced Peter from his sensor station. They're moving to surround us. The space around them lit up with enemy fire. The Retribution's point defense systems activated automatically, shooting down incoming missiles while the shields absorbed energy blasts. Their fighter squadrons engaged the Nexian small craft, keeping them away from the rescue mission. "Lance is ready," Ryan said, his targeting computer locked on the nearest Nexian capital ship. "Awaiting your order, Captain." Catherine stood up, her eyes fixed on the main display. Fire. The Lance weapon released its energy in a brilliant beam of blue-white light. It struck the Nexian ship's shields head-on. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then Ryan noticed something strange on his readings. "Captain, the Lance, it's creating some kind of resonance effect in their shield matrix." They all watched as the enemy ship's shields began to flicker and fail. The Lance's energy wasn't just hitting the shields, it was disrupting them completely. The Nexian vessel's purple barrier collapsed, leaving it exposed. "All batteries, fire," Catherine ordered. The Retribution's conventional weapons opened up, tearing into the now unprotected Nexian ship. The enemy vessel tried to retreat, but it was too late. Explosions rippled along its hull before it finally broke apart. "The other Nexian ships are pulling back," Peter reported. "They seem confused by what just happened. Wait, I'm picking up lots of signals. They're calling for reinforcements." Ryan watched his displays as more data came in about the Lance's effects. "Captain, I think we found their weakness. The Lance creates a specific frequency that interferes with their shield technology. If we can share this information with the rest of the fleet." "Already on it," said Greg from Communications, "sending encrypted data to Fleet Command now." The rescue shuttles reported success. All civilian ships were safe and being escorted to safety. But the battle was far from over. More Nexian ships were appearing on the long-range sensors. "They're not used to losing ships," Catherine said, studying the tactical display. "Now they'll have to commit more forces to deal with us." "That's exactly what we wanted." Ryan adjusted the Lance's power settings, preparing for the next wave. The weapon needed time to recharge, but now they knew it worked. For the first time, humanity had a way to break through Nexian defenses. "All hands, prepare for second wave," Catherine announced. "They'll come at us harder now. But we've proven the Retribution can take them on. We've proven humanity can fight back." The crew worked with renewed energy, encouraged by their first victory. Ryan watched as the enemy fleet grew larger on his display. The real test was coming. The Nexians would throw everything they had at this ship that dared to challenge them. But as he looked around at his fellow crew members, Ryan saw no fear in their faces. Only determination. The Retribution had been built for this moment, and they were ready to show the galaxy what humanity's first star destroyer could really do. News of the Retribution's success spread quickly through the galaxy. The Nexian Empire had lost 3 capital ships in the battle near Saturn, and their response was swift. Massive fleets began moving toward the Sol system, determined to destroy this new threat. Captain Catherine Wells sat in the tactical room with her senior officers, studying the movement of enemy forces. Maria Suarez, her tactical officer, pointed to several red dots on the star map. "They're pulling ships from other sectors," Maria explained, "leaving their conquered territories less defended. The Nexians are scared of the Retribution, and they're making mistakes." Catherine smiled. This was exactly what they had hoped for. "Show me the colony positions again." The map changed, showing the locations of Earth's remaining outer colonies. Many had fallen to the Nexians, but some still held out. The enemy's new movement patterns left gaps in their defense lines. "I have an idea," Catherine said, "but it's risky. We're going to use their fear against them." She outlined her plan to the officers. The Retribution would appear to threaten key Nexian positions, drawing their forces away from the colonies. Meanwhile, fast supply ships would slip through the gaps to bring aid to the isolated human settlements. "We'll need to time this perfectly," Maria said, already working on the details. "One wrong move and we could end up trapped between their fleets." They spent the next few hours planning. The Retribution's crew had grown confident after their victories, but they knew the real challenge was still coming. The Nexians wouldn't underestimate them again. Message from Fleet Command, Greg announced, entering the tactical room. Commander Martinez approves the plan. She's sending 3 stealth supply ships to support us. Catherine nodded. Tell engineering to prepare for extended operations. We'll need to keep the Nexians chasing us for at least 2 weeks to get supplies to all the colonies. The plan went into action the next day. The Retribution appeared near a major Nexian supply line, its presence causing panic among the enemy forces. As expected, they called for reinforcements, pulling ships away from their patrol routes. Enemy fleet approaching from Sector 7. Peter reported from his sensor station. 12 capital ships, 24 cruisers. Right on schedule, Catherine said. Begin Phase 2. Send the coded signal to our supply ships. As the Nexian fleet approached, the Retribution engaged in hit-and-run attacks. They would strike quickly with the lance weapon, disable 1 or 2 enemy ships, then jump away before the rest could respond. Each time, more Nexian ships would be pulled away from their positions. Maria worked tirelessly at her tactical station, plotting jump points and attack vectors. Supply Ship 1 reports success, she announced after 3 days. Colony on Europa has been resupplied. They're sending medical data. The shield frequency information is helping them improve their defenses. The cat and mouse game continued for days. The Retribution's crew worked in shifts, maintaining their grueling schedule. Every time the Nexians thought they had the Star Destroyer cornered, it would slip away, appearing somewhere else to threaten another vital target. Fleet Command reports all colonies have been reached, Greg said finally. The supply ships made it through. We did it, Captain. Catherine looked at her tired but proud crew. They had done more than just survive. They had shown the Nexians that humanity could beat them at their own game. The enemy's response to the Retribution had left them overextended and vulnerable. Send word to command, she ordered. Phase 1 is complete. We're ready to begin the real attack. It's time to show the Nexians that their empire isn't as strong as they think it is. The Retribution wasn't alone anymore. As it approached the massive Nexian staging area near Alpha Centauri, other ships appeared from hyperspace to join it. Ships of different shapes and sizes, built by various alien species who had suffered under Nexian rule. They had all heard about the human Star Destroyer that could break through Nexian shields. Chief Engineer Paul Carter worked in the Retribution's main engineering bay, helping other species engineers modify their weapons with the shield-breaking technology. The room was filled with aliens of all kinds, tall, crystalline beings from the Vega system, reptilian warriors from Proxima's worlds, and many others. The frequency modulation must be exact, he explained to a group of alien engineers. Too high or too low, and it won't create the resonance effect we need. On the bridge, Captain Wells watched as more ships joined their fleet. How many now? She asked. 47 ships, Maria replied from tactical. More arriving every hour. The Nexians never expected their victims to work together like this. The staging area ahead was the largest Nexian shipyard in this sector of space. Hundreds of enemy ships were built there every year, ships that would go on to conquer more worlds. But not today. Today, everything would change. All ships report ready, Greg announced from communications. They're waiting for your signal, Captain. Catherine stood up, looking at the tactical display. Their fleet was in position, hidden behind a dense asteroid field. The Nexian shipyard floated ahead, its purple shields glowing softly in the darkness of space. Send the signal, she ordered. All ships, begin the attack. The combined fleet moved forward as one. The Retribution led the charge, its lance weapon fully charged. Behind it, dozens of ships from different worlds formed up in attack formation, just as they had practiced. Enemy ships responding, Peter called out. They're scrambling to defensive positions. They didn't expect an attack here. The lance fired first, its blue-white beam cutting through space. It struck the shipyard's main shield generator, creating the now familiar resonance effect. The massive purple barrier began to flicker and fail. "All ships, fire," Catherine commanded. The alien vessels, their weapons now modified with Earth's technology, opened fire together. Each blast carried the same shield-breaking frequency. The shipyard's defenses collapsed completely under the combined assault. "Nexian reinforcements incoming," Maria reported. 5 minutes until they arrive." "Plenty of time," Catherine said. "Launch our boarding parties." Small ships shot out from the Allied fleet, carrying mixed teams of humans and aliens. They headed for the now exposed shipyard, while the larger vessels provided cover fire. Years of anger at Nexian oppression were being unleashed at last. Paul worked frantically in engineering, coordinating with other ships to maintain their weapons' effectiveness. Through the ship's windows, he could see explosions blooming across the shipyard's surface as the boarding parties did their work. "The workers in the shipyard," Greg reported suddenly. "They're rising up. They're fighting against the Nexian guards." Catherine wasn't surprised. Many species had been forced to work in Nexian facilities. Now they had a chance to fight back, and they were taking it. The battle raged for hours. The Retribution and its allies held off wave after wave of Nexian reinforcements, while the boarding parties completed their mission. Finally, a massive explosion lit up space as the shipyard's main reactor went critical. "All boarding parties recovered," Maria announced. "The shipyard is breaking apart. We did it, Captain. We destroyed their largest production facility." The combined fleet regrouped, ready to face the next wave of Nexian ships. But something was different now. The enemy's response seemed hesitant, uncertain. For the first time in centuries, the Nexian Empire faced an enemy that could not only fight back but win. "Send word to all ships," Catherine ordered. The shipyard was just the beginning. Today, we showed what we can do together. Tomorrow, we take the fight to the heart of their empire. The success of the Retribution sparked a fire that spread across the galaxy. Within weeks of the shipyard's destruction, dozens of worlds rose up against their Nexian overlords. The once mighty empire found itself fighting battles on too many fronts, against too many enemies who now had the power to fight back. Captain Catherine Wells stood in the United Earth government's main chamber, surrounded by representatives from 20 different species. The chamber had been built to welcome alien visitors, but not like this. Not as allies and equals who had fought together for their freedom. The plans for the shield-breaking technology have been shared with all member worlds, Paul Carter explained to the gathered representatives. 6 more Star Destroyers are under construction in Earth's shipyards, and our allies have begun building their own versions. Catherine watched as alien leaders discussed strategies and shared information about Nexian movements. Just months ago, these species had been isolated, each fighting alone against an overwhelming enemy. Now they work together, their combined strength growing every day. "Message from the front lines," Maria said, approaching Catherine with a datapad. 3 more Nexian battle groups have surrendered. They're requesting to join our alliance. This wasn't surprising anymore. Many Nexian ships, seeing their empire crumbling, chose to surrender rather than fight. Some even turned against their former masters, revealing vital information about the empire's weaknesses. The Retribution itself had become a symbol of hope. Its image was painted on walls in freed colonies, its name whispered like a prayer on worlds still under Nexian control. But more than that, it had shown that different species could work together, could trust each other, could build something better than the empire that had tried to crush them all. "The Nexian High Command has sent a message," Greg announced to the chamber. "They're calling for peace talks." The room erupted in discussion. Some wanted to continue fighting until the empire was completely destroyed. Others saw an opportunity to end the bloodshed. Catherine stepped forward to speak. "We didn't build the Retribution just to destroy," she said, her voice carrying through the chamber. "We built it to protect, to defend, to give hope. Yes, we can keep fighting. Yes, we can crush what remains of their empire. But perhaps we can also build something new. A galaxy where no species tries to rule over others, where we work together instead of fighting each other." The alien representatives listened carefully. Many had lost homes, family members, entire colonies to Nexian attacks, but they had also seen what cooperation could achieve. The Retribution had shown them a different path. "We accept the peace talks," the Council decided finally, "but from a position of strength, not weakness. Our combined fleet will make sure they understand that." Later that day, Catherine walked through the Retribution's halls one last time. The ship would lead the fleet to the peace talks, but after that, its role would change. It would become a training vessel, where crews from different species would learn to work together. "Ready to go, Captain?" Paul asked, joining her on the observation deck. Below them, Earth shone blue and peaceful. "Yes," she replied. "But this isn't an ending. It's a beginning." She thought about everything that had happened since that first desperate day when the Nexians attacked. Humanity had built a star destroyer, yes, but they had built something even more important. Trust between species, hope for a better future, proof that the impossible was possible. The Retribution's engines hummed to life as it prepared to leave the combined fleet. In its wake would follow ships of all shapes and sizes, crewed by beings from across the galaxy. Together, they would ensure that no empire would ever again threaten their hard-won freedom. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, Catherine smiled. The stars stretched into lines of light around them, carrying them toward a future that none of them could have imagined just a few months ago. A future where humanity's first star destroyer had helped forge not just a victory, but a lasting peace.